Welcome to the Oracle Scroll. My name is Kevin Walder and I am your host, and I invite you to join my guests and myself as we discuss all things metaphysical. Welcome back to episode 20 of the Oracle Scroll. I don't know about you, but I'm not quite sure I was prepared to see episode 20 already, but we're already there. So, thanks for joining us. Thanks for making this possible. Today, we're going to talk about the star. The star is sometimes called the most hopeful card in the deck, and it has several messages to deliver to us, so we'll be exploring that. In the second segment, we're going to talk about commitments. Commitments are difficult. Commitments are very hard for us humans to even wrap our heads around, much less live it out. So we're going to talk about that from a spiritual standpoint. And then in the final segment, we will take a question from Ted on his work life and see if we can draw some cards to encourage him. So, let's get started with the star. I'm going to talk first of all about what I wrote about the star in my book, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards. And this is what I had to say about the star. The star is a very promising card to pull at any time. The star reminds us of the importance of dreams, goals, wishes, hopes. For all these things lead us to better tomorrows. As a member of the major Arcana family, this card carries a great deal of weight in any reading. Stars are only visible at night, so the dreamy energy of this card reminds us to look for the light when we are facing our darkest challenges in life. The star carries with it some of the most positive energy of any major Arcana card in the deck. It reminds us that there is always light, and we have to maintain our positive outlook to see the outcome for which we hope and dream. The study of astrology is an ancient practice which points out the power attributed to the stars by our ancestors. Since the stars are seen to influence our personalities and proclivities, they do indeed have a tremendous power in our daily existence. The energy of the star brings that power to the fore and tells us to trust. We can look to the star for help in manifesting our hopes and dreams. As the saying goes, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're correct. So the star reminds us to never give up, never lose hope, but to persevere. This card also speaks to our intuition and reminds us that we have so much power within us that we have never called to action. The star advises us that keeping our thoughts on the positive outcomes we desire contributes greatly toward our overall well-being. It's easy to become defeated at times. And when we see all the things and challenges that life has to offer, the star can tell us to keep the long-range goal in view. This card is also a great reminder that no matter the current circumstance, there is always room for hope and positive thinking. Sometimes it's simply a case of not seeing the forest for the trees. When I see the star appear in a reading, it tells me that the querent is using or needs to use their creative visualization to help create the reality they desire. No matter what other cards appear in the reading, this card reminds us that there is always hope, if we only allow it into our lives. The star also reminds us to keep the big picture in view and not get bogged down with the little things that take on more than their share of importance. The star is also a gentle reminder for each of us to spend some time each day being grateful for the people, the places, the things in our lives. This simple exercise of expressing our gratitude can bring about a great change in our outlook, and in turn, our circumstance. So the star leaves us with some questions, like most of his colleagues, or her colleagues in this case. What wish or dream sustains you when challenges occur? In your own life, how has the energy of the star helped you in the past? Do you spend some time each day visualizing your highest and best outcome? And that's what I wrote about the star in my book, Tarot for Lunch, Lessons from the Cards. It's available now at Amazon.com in both paperback and Kindle versions. As we've been doing with all the cards, we're going to take a few moments to listen to the star explain herself. And so she's been invited to speak to us. So without further ado, I'll introduce the star. My name is Star, and I'm a vibrant member of the major arcana of the tarot. I have enjoyed hearing my colleagues speak about what makes them different from each other, and I welcome this opportunity to speak directly to you about my place in the system. The first thing that I find significant, I'm not sure if everybody's noticed it, is my placement in the deck. I'm card number 17. I come just after the Tower with all its fury and chaos and lightning, and I follow up on that confusion with calm, grace, offering hope and healing to all who wish to partake. If you consider the major arcana as a story, you'll notice a definite ebb and flow to the story. So my position is quite auspicious as I lead you from discontent and upheaval to a place of healing and restoration. In times of great change, hope is a valuable tool for preserving the dream of life as you have dreamed it. I find that to be one of my best assets, and I offer it freely. Hope is one thing no one can ever take from us, and it can keep us afloat when it seems like all else has failed. The first thing some people see, and that's always the way it is, some people see my nudity. Most depictions of me show me in the nude, kneeling near water, moving the water from one vessel to another. This depiction is not gratuitous, nor is it pornographic. It merely alludes to my vulnerability and my connection to the earth and the earth energies. Have you ever noticed that when you wish for something in your life, it tends to manifest as soon as we release the feeling of need and make ourselves vulnerable? This is how we express to the universe our humility and willingness to accept with gratitude the wish we want granted. So my nudity is simply me saying that I'm free of any conditions, free of any ulterior motives. My wish is pure of intent, and I present myself humbly as evidence of my sincerity. Water also figures prominently in most of the imagery that depicts me, and this refers to my connection to elemental and feminine energies. Water is constantly moving, constantly reshaping itself, and I recognize this characteristic within myself. It is part of my earthly connection, and by moving the water, I'm expressing my willingness to work with spirit to deliver my fervent wish. To me, water symbolizes the ever-changing, ever-shifting that is part of being human. And I'm showing this with my interaction with the water. Water is cleansing, refreshing, and life-giving. And these are all aspects of my message. My greatest message is one of hope. And as I am known to say, there is always room for hope. There is never a situation so dark or foreboding, that hope cannot help to lighten it, subdue it. Every human dreams and wishes. We open ourselves to inspiration and give our creativity the opportunity to work for us. I'm here to spread my message that you each possess the power to effect change in your world, and hope is simply the beginning of that process. Another part of my message is that humility is an absolute necessity to leading a successful life. This is demonstrated by my presenting myself in the nude or skyclad. By doing this, I state clearly that I am not fully responsible for my success, recognizing the contributions of others, and most of all, the influence of spirit. If I hope to see my dreams fulfilled, I must exist in a state of gratitude, accepting the universal gifts bestowed upon me. As with most of the major arcana, there's an element of mystery which surrounds our message. Mine tends to lead us to accept and embrace the divine which surrounds us and the divine which resides within us. Just imagine what could be accomplished once we recognize that a great deal of the power necessary for the realization of a dream already resides within us. This is often the most complex and even confusing of all the concepts I like to accent because it calls on us to recognize ourselves as divine beings, capable of making miracles occur within our own lives. In order to fully appreciate my message, we must always believe in our dream and embrace our identity and how to fulfill it. We must be able to fully embrace the outcome we've wished for and be willing to work for its fulfillment. Some of my colleagues have some very serious lessons to teach us, and though my message might appear to be all sweetness and light, it's equally serious that we listen and truly hear that message. I'm encouraging you to notice and accept the gift of hope with which Spirit endows us all. Look at my representation as a 5-pointed star, which is a universal symbol of uniting the 4 elements of air, fire, water, and earth, with the 5th point representing spirit. This is the potent mixture which is responsible for all life on earth and fits my message perfectly. I do have a warning to deliver as well. While my core message is one of hope and redemption, I could also be saying that you might be blocking the efforts of Spirit to offer a solution. This is most likely to happen when we cling so tightly to an outcome that we fail to recognize the shifts and the movements that the universe is giving to us. So, hopefully, my words here today have helped you to get to know me a little better, and I thank you for having me here today to speak with you. Oh, by the way, I'm a great card to use for meditation, especially when you're feeling blocked and trapped. My message of hope will open opportunities which have remained hidden from view for far too long. In the second segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take something of current interest or something of a concern within the community, and we try to look at it from a spiritual standpoint. Today, I'm going to talk to you about commitments. And believe me, as I talk about these things, I'm right in there with you, working on the same things you are. I'm not ahead of you. I may not be behind you, but I am with you doing the same things you are. We're all involved in the same work. I enjoy teaching, but that doesn't mean I've stopped learning. In fact, if anything, it has sped up my learning curve. So join me as we talk about commitments. The issue of commitment is a challenging one in today's society. We see people willing to break long-standing commitments on a whim to pursue a more expedient situation. How does this manifest in our own spiritual community? Do we consider ethics and morality when making decisions about a commitment? In a recent conversation with a friend, I listened to him talk about how verbal commitments are often viewed as non-binding and unimportant by those making them. In fact, sometimes I refer to them as suggestions. They're not really commitments. Since this person is also involved in our spiritual community, it was somewhat surprising to hear him referring to fellow teachers, coaches, and other spiritual people who make commitments that go unfulfilled. I recently found myself in such a position when I had made a commitment of time to someone and then found myself presented with an opportunity which promised to be much more profitable. We've all had that happen. After considering all the options, it was obvious to me that I had no ethical choice but to honor my previous commitment, which I did. Sometimes we who do spiritual work become so enthusiastic about an opportunity to offer our services that we forget to calculate all the expense of time, money, and effort which might be involved in fulfilling the commitment. This is a challenging lesson for each of us, and I'm sure every teacher and every coach out there can recall the day they learned it. I'm not sure I have learned it all entirely. Sometimes it's simply a matter of poor organization, which keeps us from realizing that we're spreading ourselves a little thin, and it will be impossible for us to keep all the promises that we're making. Other times, there will be unforeseen circumstances such as illness, family issues, car issues. They'll get in the way of fulfilling our commitments. Those things are kind of understandable. We have all experienced these things, and though it isn't pleasant, we must be ready to explain and ask for forgiveness. Be understanding for the person that is expecting you to show up and is going to be disappointed by your failure to do so. To simply not show up or to act as if a verbal agreement is somehow less binding or not as important is not only a breach of trust, but an affront to that person with whom we've made the agreement. We're basically telling them they aren't important enough to be honest and upfront with. We face many challenges to our credibility and integrity from the world around us without creating more challenges in our own community. When we make a commitment to be available or to provide a service, we should have every reason to believe we're capable of providing such. We are often called upon to make commitments with a handshake or a verbal acknowledgement, and we should regard those as binding contracts. So, by honoring our commitments and being respectful of those who trust us, we allow everyone to concentrate on the truly important work of continuing to evolve our spiritual nature without distractions. And that's basically what I had to say about commitments. There's a lot more to be said, but in a nutshell, this basically covers what we're talking about amongst ourselves as spiritual workers, how we can promote trust within the community and actually be a better service to our client and those who are helping us to connect with our clients. In the third and final segment of the Oracle Scroll, we take a question from an audience member and draw cards to see if we can provide some guidance, some clarification for them. Today, we have a work question. And this is from Ted. And Ted writes, I have been doing a job, which is actually more hobby than job, for quite some time. I'm looking at leaving this position since it provides no real income, but I really enjoy the creative outlet. What should I do? Well, I got a chance to respond, and I said, Ted, thank you for your question. I pulled 3 cards for you, and the 3 cards are the 8 of Coins, the 9 of Cups, the King of Cups, and then I drew the Chariot as a clarifying card. The first thing I get very strongly is that this was never about the money, just like you said. It was rather an emotional attachment to that position that's kept you there for this long. The first card, which is the 8 of Coins, steps up with a message of new beginnings, indicating that this has been on your mind for some time, and circumstances and recent events are bringing it into sharper focus. The 8s, I look at them as extra aces in the deck. They are showing the way for a new launch and a new opportunity. The second card, the 9 of Cups, is an indication of that emotional attachment that you feel for this position. It says to me this position is providing a very satisfying creative outlet, and you really enjoy the benefits of that and the ego boost that comes with it. But you're feeling restless, and you have come to realize that this isn't it. You want more. The King of Cups steps in to tell us what it is you really want. Though this position provides the occasional ego boost you want, more control over your efforts and the rewards, both ego boosting and monetary rewards. The King is a decision maker, and he's a director, and you want that position for yourself. The clarifying card I pulled was the Chariot, which is a harbinger of movement and change. This, combined with the other cards, especially the King of Cups, says to me that this move is overdue. The question for you right now is, if not right now, then when? You have your tools, you have your experience, so putting them to work for yourself just makes sense. In summary, you have already done much of the work to achieve this change by recognizing, first of all, you recognize that it's not financially viable, but it does fill an important spot, the emotional well-being. And the cards are supportive. They definitely back you up in that assessment. The presence of the Cups cards brings to the forefront the need for you to find a new way of fulfilling that emotional need, which this position has been giving you. One key to the success of this move will be finding a way to fill the emotional void your exit will leave. The clear indication is that the behind-the-scenes work is not enough for you anymore. It may have been at one time, but you've grown. You want to direct, you want to implement, and the time for this change is now. One rule to remember is that waiting for the right time will never work, because the right time is always somewhere in the future. So it's time for that move. I look forward to seeing how it works out. I wish you the best of luck in your new endeavor, Ted, and I thank you for your question. So if you, as an audience member, would like to send a question for us to consider here on the Oracle Scroll, please send it along to the oraclescroll@gmail.com, and we will consider putting you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us for episode 20. The Oracle Scroll is available right now on many of your favorite platforms, and we ask that you please subscribe today. You can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, and Facebook. You can support the Oracle Scroll and earn attractive bonuses for yourself by visiting our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Kevin Walder. A link is also provided in the episode notes accompanying this audio presentation. Please send comments, suggestions, requests, anything at all to the Oracle Scroll at gmail.com. Be sure to share your experience with your friends, your relatives, anyone else who might enjoy what we do here at the Oracle Scroll. And links, as always, to all contact options are listed in the episode notes that accompany this audio presentation. We thank you again, and this is, like we said, episode 20. That seems like such a big number to start with, because when we started, we were quite shaky, and now we are actually beginning to hit our stride. Our audience is growing daily. So thank you very much, and please spread the word. Let everybody know. Thank you. Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Oracle Scroll. Find us on Facebook at the Oracle Scroll. If you wish to send comments, suggestions, or requests, please address them to theoraclescroll@gmail.com.